music.
John Lennon is based.
Himalaya.
Self-help in psychology.
Lennon is basically the definition of a rock star. Like, how do you get more rock star than John Lennon? He was a Beatles founder, co-vocalist, and rhythm guitarist. With Paul McCartney, he wrote over 180 songs, has the most albums sold by any artist, and a still unbroken record of the most number ones on the Billboard Hot 100. And on top of that, he's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame twice.
Just in case you're not familiar with exactly how John Lennon became one of the most famous musicians in history, here's a quick recap.
In February of 1964, the Beatles performed on The Ed Sullivan Show, which was viewed by 73 million people, and the world straight up explodes. I mean, this was a moonshot like people had never seen before. The Beatles' first North American tour hit 32 shows in 25 cities over 31 days. That is more than a show a day. They were mobbed by fans so much that they actually had to send decoy limousines, and the Beatles would show up in delivery vans and ambulances. And they wound up selling out Shea Stadium, being the very first time anyone had ever used an outdoor stadium for a rock concert. I mean, this was a true star adventure, and the Beatles, and John Lennon specifically, were absolutely at the top of their game. But like most people at the top of their game, he struggled to have it all. John, who was living the great rock star life he'd always wanted, found that he was becoming a little bit unmoored because he had a secret. John had a wife and a kid.
Of course, having a wife and kid is great. Can confirm, I've got both. But in the 60s, they weren't really on brand for the rock star lifestyle.
And so his first wife, Cynthia, and his son, Julian, were just kind of pushed to the side. He was building this image of a rock star with all the bravado he needed, but it was ruining him on the inside. The pressures of the industry were getting to him. He wrote a song called Help. There's a reason for that. And that lack of balance kind of caused him to build this career, a business, a really successful one, but leave his family by the side and say, I'll be back when I'm back.
John and Cynthia ultimately got divorced, but he still had a deep desire for a sense of family and belonging that, frankly, he never really had, not even as a kid.
His father was a mariner who basically left home and was away when John was born, and also used to send regular checks until those just stopped. He was raised by a really unsupportive aunt, and so music became his great escape.
2 years after he left the Beatles and married Yoko Ono in 1969, he became a father for the second time, to a son named Sean.
He changes course abruptly and goes from rock star singer to stay-at-home dad. And Sean became his obsession. And suddenly, this at-home, take-care-of-the-kids thing was the definition for John. He was changing diapers, dancing around with the baby, making sure that Sean got to sleep with a really structured routine, hanging out in Central Park with him. He treated every piece of artwork that his son ever made with deep reverence. He always used to say, you can't breathe out until you breathe in, and this was certainly a breathe-in moment.
For 5 years, John threw himself into being a dad the way he had thrown himself into music earlier in his life. But something was missing.
He still felt unmoored because he wasn't writing music. He didn't write anything. He actually put his guitar above the bed, and he said he didn't take it down for 5 years. He didn't even tell Sean that he was one of the Beatles. It wasn't until his son heard the song Yellow Submarine at a friend's house that he ran home and said, Daddy, were you a Beatle? He didn't have the balance of his fulfilling artistic career and the safe, fulfilling home life that he wanted, and it made him restless.
John decided he needed a great adventure, and okay, it might be fair to call it a midlife crisis.
On June 5th, 1980, just before his 40th birthday, John set out from New Mexico, but it's not the easiest destination, right? We all know the Bermuda Triangle. Things happen there. And so sending a world-renowned rock star into those waters is kind of a risky venture, but John was adamant. So he pops onto Meg and Jay, gets to know everyone, but comes very close with the skipper, Captain Hank. Captain Hank treated him with respect, but with a lack of deference, something he hadn't experienced from his fans. He'd say things like, "You just affected 50 million people out there to the positive, big boy. What are you going to do to follow that up?"
A few days into the voyage, the heavens themselves seemed to invite John to answer that very question as the ship headed into the Bermuda Triangle.
The skies turned from gray to blue-black, which are the telltale signs of a storm. And did that storm ever come? 65-mile-per-hour winds, 24-foot waves, a boat rocking back and forth. It was one of the worst that the Meg and Jay had ever experienced. And while the crew is down in the base of the boat, huddled, John makes his way up to the deck and finds Captain Hank up top. "I'm gonna